All right, I'm Roger Hayes, Chairman of the British Constitution Group. Just a little bit of background. I'm a master mariner by profession, which means captain of a ship. About 40 years ago, I read a book. And this book, called None Dare Call It Conspiracy, actually set out in detail the blueprint for the New World Order. Okay? So in the last 40 years, I have watched through my life as the whole thing has unfolded. And we got to the stage where about 4 years ago, I thought to myself, we are coming to end game here, and nobody seems to really understand what's going on. So I decided to set up the British Constitution Group because I believe that the solution to the problem lay in the rule of law, and all of our politicians were breaking the law outright. So that was the purpose of setting up the British Constitution Group. In conjunction with that, I came across John Harris. And John Harris was talking about the free man stuff, and to me they were hand and glove, because we originally had the free men fighting for our constitution. Those are the guys who actually sorted the constitution out, and the constitutionalists are the guys who understood what the constitution was all about, and it protected our freedoms. So those guys came hand in hand. So on the first stage for the British Constitution Group, we had John Bingling talking about the Constitution. We had John Harris talking about the free man. And people were saying to me, they're talking completely opposites. I said, no, they're not. They're talking the same thing. And of course, what evolved from that was the legal fiction. How many people in this room have heard about the legal fiction? How many people in this room have heard about the legal fiction 5 years ago? Okay, so some smart cookies in this room. The bottom line is, you go out of this room, you walk down the street, you ask people about the legal fiction, and they look at you as though you're mad. How many people in this room have got friends and family who think you're mad? That is so consistent an answer throughout the whole country. It's amazing. Okay. All right. This presentation is divided into two parts. I am, if you like, the constitutionalist in the suit, but I'm also a free man. I'm a free man with a tie on. I believe what John Harris and the Freemen guys are doing is absolutely bang on, but I believe we need to keep reminding people that the foundations of where we are now is supposed to be based on the rule of law. Consent. As far as I'm concerned, we start with this word because this is the most important word in defining our freedoms. I ask people this simple question and it gets them thinking. And I find that when you have a conversation with people, you do ask the question. And the question you should ask is, who on this planet has the right to tell you what to do without your consent? It's such a simple question. When I go into the court and there with the judge, the question I ask the judge, which they never answer, is, do you claim any authority over me without my consent? And they bumble and they fumble, but they never answer that question. Okay? Because if they said, yes, we have authority over you, I say, so this is a master-slave relationship then. And of course, I'm not anybody's slave, and no judge should make that mistake. So when we ask the question, it conjures up the image that the police tell us what to do, the judges tell us what to do, politicians tell us what to do, ministers of the crown, they tell us what to do, prime ministers tell us what to do, and the Queen, of course, tells us what to do one way or the other. All these people seem to be claiming that they can tell us what to do. And that's without our consent. So the question is, can these people tell us what to do? Is there anybody that can tell us what to do? Except the bloody computer? And of course the answer is nobody. We know that for a fact. A lot of people out there don't know it, but most people in this room do understand that basic and simple fact that nobody on this planet can tell you what to do without your consent. It is an indisputable fact. We are all equal under the law. And they will all repeat that, to the days, go dark. The bottom line, then people say, yeah, we are all equal under the law, aren't we? So we are policed by consent and we are governed by consent. You ask a policeman, do you police by consent? And they will say yes. You ask the government, do you govern by consent? And they will also say yes. If not, then we are living in a police state. And likewise with government, if we're not being governed by consent, then it's a tyranny. It's logical, isn't it? So if we're all supposed to be equal under the law, why then do we jump almost when anybody in authority tells us to jump? And the answer is because we have been trained to be compliant. right? All of our lives we're brainwashed into servitude. We have developed do as we are told and don't rock the boat mentalities. Okay, that's what's happened. And I believe people in this room have started to shake those shackles and started to wake up to the reality we are free people. We do have our own authority. So we've been subjected to a constant bombardment of obedience training, haven't we? So much so that few of us ever question our own self-worth, our own sovereignty. Okay. So the point I was making is that few of us have ever questioned our own self-worth and our own sovereignty and our own inherent authority. And yet is our common law right to do whatever we want. It's a very important point. It is our common law right to do whatever we want without having to ask another individual's permission, subject only to us causing no harm or loss to any other sovereign being. And yet we don't exist in that frame of mind. We're convinced that we've got to obey all these rules and regulations. And herein lies the very foundation of our common law rights. Our right to go freely about our business with respect for our fellow human beings, to do likewise, unhindered by unnecessary and intrusive officialdom. That is our right. And that's, as I say, after all, is supposed to be, the authority is supposed to serve our interests and not the other way around. Okay, so they are supposed to serve us, not we serve them. Will officialdom leave us alone? No chance, right? They're constantly harassing us, demanding that we pay ever-increasing taxes. They've always got another excuse, there's no money, blah, 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 and obey ever more prescriptive and unnecessary legislation. I mean, I was reading the paper today, I can't remember what it was, and I just thought, oh, this is just beyond a joke. They are really, really pushing the limit. It's the nanny state, and it's being imposed, and it's deliberate, right? It's not accidental, it's quite deliberate. And it's designed to condition us to doing as we are told. The more trivial and the more oppressive the diktats and more accepting that we are of these rules and regulations, the more conditioned we become and the more they can control us. So it's quite deliberate, right? They are getting us used to doing as we are told. And they're coming up with the most basic and stupid rules and regulations to push us into subservience. We are being socially engineered into obedience and serfdom. Does everybody agree with that? Yeah. Okay, so we're fighting back, aren't we? So surely the time has come to reassert our common law rights and our individual freedoms. To live our lives with greater freedom, less state interference, and with fewer petty regulations. That's what this is all about. But in order to do so, we must first understand how the assumption of authority has been permeated our mindset. How have they worked this out? How have they done this? And it's through the very clever but devious mechanism of the legal fiction, also known as the person. How many people in this room have heard of the person? Yeah, we've got it now, haven't we? We had this conversation 5 years ago and people would have thought you're mad. Most people in this room would have thought you're mad, but now we're waking up. This is what I call the hierarchy of authority. It helps to explain to people who are not switched on the mechanism, how the whole thing works. In the hierarchy of authority, you'll see that below this line here is blue to there, and above is white. At the very, very peak of the hierarchy of authority is the rule of law. We all live under the rule of law because it's beneficial to do so. This is common law. It is not legislation. This is called God's law or natural law, whatever you want. That shall not kill, that steal from your neighbours, don't run off with your neighbour's wife, those sorts of rules which are common sense. If you want to live in peace and harmony with your neighbours, you've got some basic rules that everybody understands and nobody disputes. It's common law, it's common sense, it's decency. That is the law. I had a lot of difficulty trying to sort of work this pyramid out in the early stages because people kept saying to me, the judges make common law, and then the penny dropped. No, they don't. They interpret common law. Common law is there, right? What they do is they take difficult and complex issues and help to, if you like, fathom the reason. So we take our wise men, supposedly our wise men, who can actually explain and interpret the common law for us. So at the very peak of the pyramid is the rule of law. We all live under the rule of law. Below the rule of law is the sovereign flesh and blood man and woman. We are born free. We are born equal. Nobody can challenge that as a statement of fact. We are all equal and we are all free. But we suspend our equality for the benefit of the nation state or society. What we do is we say it will be for our benefit if we enter into society and we suspend our equality. So we enter into society, the blue section, on the understanding this is for our benefit. As a society, we will benefit through roads, hospitals, some rule order, some statutes, and so on and so forth. So we accept superiority of some people in society, for example, the head of state, the judges, etc., because it's supposed to be for our benefit. We have order, we have roads, we have a system, it's for our benefit. So as a sovereign flesh and blood man and woman, we are superior, but we suspend it for the benefit of society. Does that make sense? And in this society, we may end up as the head of state, we may end up as a legislator, a judiciary, we may end up as an enforcer or a person. Every one of these positions in society is a legal fiction, right? It's created and we occupy it. So if you are a judge is a legal fiction, and the flesh and blood man and woman occupies that position. So in society, it is all legal fictions. The head of state is a legal fiction. Whether it's the monarch or the president or a higher body, it's a legal fiction. Whether it's you, the person, it's a legal fiction. So the top of our pyramid, within society, we have the upholders of common law. Every one of you has a right to uphold the common law. So if the head of state breaks the law, the common law, you have a right to actually arrest the head of state. You have a right to arrest the judge if they're breaking the law. I've been there, I've done it. Unfortunately, a lot of the people below don't understand it because they haven't been trained to understand it. So head of state is the top of the society. We then have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. The important thing about the executive, legislature, and the judiciary, it's supposed to be a balance. They're supposed to be equal. They're supposed to be separate. So under the doctrine of the separation of powers, each of these is designed to be separate, not interfering with each other for our benefit. Unfortunately, the executive, which is government, the legislator, which is the House of Commons in our case, and the judiciary have all been intermingled. And what happened is, many, many years ago, we had the political party was introduced. And whereas previously the head of state would select from the people that we elected, the ministers to do the various functions, there was no political party. The political party came in, and the head of state had to pick the government, right, who organised their own head of state. So what you had is the political party started to take control. Next thing we found was that the House of Commons was dictated by the party system. And the last thing, Justice Stewart in 1930 said, we should never allow the political parties or politicians to take control of the judiciary, because then you had a mingling of all those three parties controlled by the political party. And lo and behold, we now have a Minister of Justice headed by a politician. So, the three separations of power, right, there for our best interest have been mingled into one and now controlled by the party system. We have political dictatorship. And who funds them? The bankers. Who controls them? The bankers. So we have a very effective and a very clever dictatorship that's been created over the last 150 years, whatever. Below the executive, we then have the legislative enforcements. Now, at the very, very top, the judiciary and the police constables, a police constable upholds common law. It's a very, very difference between the police constable and a police officer. The legislation enforcement consists of the courts, and in our case, these courts are actually now administrative hearings. They are not common law courts. Our common law courts would fit up here. So the judiciary would be upholding the common law, and they would be doing this in common law courts. Below, in the society, we have legislative courts, or at least administrative hearings. These are not common law courts, and that's part of the problem also. So we've lost our rights under common law. And of course, below the enforcers, the police officers enforce legislation, constables uphold the law. Big difference, yeah? Below that, we have the person, the legal fiction, and you are a citizen or a subject, call yourself what you will, it doesn't matter. The point is that is a legal fiction. You occupy the position of a citizen, or you occupy the position of a subject, and at that position you are lower than the head of state, you are below the executive, legislator, etc. But you are only there because you are voluntarily there. And make no mistake about it, if you choose to leave this society and go back to your superior being, which is a free man on the land, you have that right to do so. So we are in society because we are consenting to be there. And that important word, consent, will come back and kick you up the backside every time you forget about it. So when somebody says to you, jump, you make the decision whether or not you feel you want to. And in my case, I've decided I'm not going to be jumping anymore. At the very bottom of the list, we have got outlaws. If people will not obey our common law, they are outlaws. And if you've got someone living next door to you who says, stuff it, if I want it, I'm prepared to kill for it, I'd shoot him first. Outlaws have no defense under the law at all. If they don't respect the law, they're devoid of any protection of it. Okay? In essence, all common laws apply to you, the flesh and blood man and woman. It's as simple as that. All legislation applies to the person, the legal fiction, with your consent. Reasserting our rights through the lawful bank. The lawful bank is the solution to the problem. Okay? We are all ultimately controlled by money. Does everyone agree with that? Yes. We know we are controlled by money. And what we need to do is understand what is the solution. How do we remove the shackles? The controllers of the money, the issuers of the money, thus control us. And the issuers of the money are the bankers. Yeah? The objective is to put the control of the issuance of the money back into the hands of local communities, for not government, you know, not a big company, back into the hands of communities, right? And not just for the benefit of the bankers, but for the benefit of us all. The justification is that the collective banking fraternity, aided and abetted by the disconnected and unconcerned political elite, have, through their corrupt, dishonest, illegal and greedy practices, brought our economy to the brink of collapse. They can no longer be trusted. It's a statement of absolute fact. On questions, I'm not going to answer any questions.
So does that just make them outlaws?
Eh?
Does that make them outlaws?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I believe they should be shot. I would mention about questions. As we go through this presentation, in many ways, people are going to say, I've just got to ask this question. Leave it to the end, because most of it is answered towards the end of the presentation. All right, so as far as I'm concerned, it's a lunacy to ever expect the political elite to get behind any reform of the banking system, because they're in on the act, aren't they? They're co-conspirators, plain and simple. They don't not know. They know exactly what's going on, right? All right, some of them are a bit dumb, some of them know the finer details. But the system, the political system, knows exactly what's going on. We are being scammed. A new monetary system must emerge at community level, controlled by each community for the benefit of the people in that community. That means us. We have got to do this. We cannot rely on the political system to do it for us. If you think by voting this party, that party, other party is going to solve the problem, I suggest you get some sort of serious help. All right, starting with the basics. Where does money come from? 3% of money, new money that's created, is created at the Treasury level. Basically, they print it at Treasury level and they put it into bank and they spend it to circulation. That's the normal process. It does this at no cost to taxpayer. So the government actually can create this money, put it in the bank and spend it into circulation. It doesn't cost us a penny. 97% of money is digital money, it's typed on a screen. So you go into the bank, you ask for a loan of £100,000, you sign the form and the bank manager goes, £100,000 out of nothing. Does everybody understand that now? Okay, we understand that. Again, 5 years ago, people have thought, what's happening in the marketplace out there now? I know for a fact, 3 or 4 years ago, I'd have been talking to taxi drivers about the fact that money is created out of nothing, and you know, that people looking at you like this. Now I get in a taxi and they're telling me. So we know we've progressed. I mentioned that there's a multitude of videos on the internet that explains the creation of money. How many people have seen The Secrets of the Wizard of Oz? Okay, if you haven't seen that film, watch it. It's very good because it explains the whole thing. the history and to present day. Money in Debt is also a very good video to describe the creation of money out of nothing. Sometimes it takes a bit to sort of get used to the idea, how can you create money? We've been so brainwashed, we don't understand the mechanism. Okay, this money, the money that's created out of nothing by the bankers, is then lent to us with the addition of interest. So here's the situation. They don't have anything, they type something on a screen and they charge us interest. So I borrow £100,000 from the bank to buy a house, and over the next 25 years I'm going to pay £250,000 back. So the banks have made £150,000 on my blood, sweat and tears, and they didn't have anything in the first place. Great business, yeah? So making something out of nothing, that's what the banks do. But also, the banks lend the money to the government, despite the fact we know the government can create its own money. The banks go to the bankers, the government goes to the bankers to borrow money at interest. This is literally a license to print money, isn't it? It's a gift to the banking fraternity, courtesy of our own government. Now we probably, explore the history of why this is, the country went bankrupt so many years ago, the deal's been done. Meanwhile, we're on the slave route and we're working our butts off to service the bankers' needs. It's all at our expense, isn't it? That's the bottom line. That's what this is all about. Why do the government allow the banks to do this? The banks are in the extraordinary and very privileged position of being able to create the nation's money supply, claim it as their own, and make stupendous profits as a consequence. It actually beggars belief, doesn't it? It's extraordinary. And this includes stupendous profits from our government, who borrow from the banks and pay interest, where in fact they could issue all of their own money interest-free for the benefit of the taxpayers. Why do governments condone this blatantly ridiculous arrangement? Why do they? Have you ever noticed how many ministers, having left office, have ended up with lucrative directorships or consultancies with the banks? Gordon Brown, Tony Blair, John Major, and many, many more, they leave office and they end up working for the banks. Do you wonder why? Do all these politicians have such brilliant banking skills and credentials, despite having brought our country to the brink of disaster, that makes them essential employees for the banking fraternity? Are they that good? Or are they being rewarded? Are they corrupt?
Absolutely.
You make your own mind up. I say I wouldn't like to say, that's a little lie, because I do say they're corrupt. Right. How many people in this room think our political elite are corrupt? I see you don't. It's invariably unanimous, okay? We don't get a lot of politicians in the room. Can we leave questions till later? Currently, we the taxpayer pay £50 billion each year to pay just the interest on the money borrowed from banks. Yeah? That's £50 billion that we are paying in taxes that we don't actually have to pay, which the banks create from nothing. It's absolutely extraordinary. The government could be debt-free and as a direct consequence reduce our taxes, and importantly they could pay for all the services it's currently closing down faster than we can say backhander. So the bottom line is there is no shortage of money. That's an outrageous lie. Okay, it's a control mechanism, isn't it? If you can make people scared of losing your job, then you're going to be controlled, and that's what this is all about. It's all about control. So everybody should be asking this question. If the banks can create money out of nothing to lend to the government, why not reverse the process and the government create the money and lend it to the banks? Then the government would be making billions and billions and billions of pounds profit, and our taxes would go down, right? So that's the question that we should ask government, and we have asked government. It's a very good question which the government will not answer, and we know why. The answer to the question is because the government is not working in the best interest of the people, it's working for the banks. Right? I ask anyone to challenge me if they don't think that's right, that the government is not working for our benefit. The government is actually working for the bankers. The banks control the government. If Parliament voted to change the monetary system so that the government created all new money, it could pay off the national debt and reduce all taxation, making all of our lives considerably easier. But it has no intention of doing so, because making our lives easier is not on the government's agenda, is it? Making their lives easier is. And the three main political parties all support that agenda. And this is at odds with the very basic principle of good and honest governance for the benefit of the people. So if you vote for them, I'm sorry, but you're part of the problem. And if everybody woke up tomorrow morning and realised that these people are not actually working in our best interest, boy, could we change the world. But we're working on it. Are we being taken for a ride? By our own government in collusion with the banking cartel. If you think not, then I respectfully suggest that you're 99 pence short of the pound in assessment of the reality. If you do not think we're being scammed, read some more books. Those of us who do think we are indeed being taken for a ride, i.e. victims of a gigantic fraud, and yes, a conspiracy to defraud, we must and can do something about it. The solution is to take back control of our democratic right to issue our own money supply. So we, the taxpayer, could save ourselves £50 billion at the very least by simply creating our own alternative monetary system with or without government. The key point is we can do this with or without government. So the Lawful Bank is a solution. It requires the collective action of a critical mass of people to create an alternative monetary system beyond the control of both the government and the banking cartel. So we are talking about moving this beyond their control. No, we don't want the government involved. No, we don't want the banks involved. We don't want them to change anything. We don't want the government to wake up. We want to take control ourselves, because the bottom line is we can't trust them. So if a member of Parliament suddenly says to you, we'd like to help, tell them it's okay, we've got it sorted. It requires firstly that you as individuals get involved by simply joining the Lawful Bank project. There's the website, go on, sign up, it doesn't cost a penny, no one's asking you for any money. So it's just a simple case of actually making your interest known and sign up. How does it work? You sign up to Lawful Bank and you ask family, friends and work colleagues to do the same. This is about numbers, we need to build our numbers. Every single day, people sign up to Lawful Bank. Every day I get a report that people have signed up, and what I'm doing is going around the country trying to get you lot to sign up and get you to talk to your friends and family and work colleagues. I hope by the end of this presentation you'll say there's a motivation to do so. We will create for you 2 bank accounts, okay? This is when we've got our critical mass in place, we will create 2 bank accounts, a current account and a property account. Your property account on the nominated day, upon reaching the critical mass, will be credited with £250,000 sovereignty pounds, right? So you will have £250,000 in your bank account, ready for you to spend, okay? We can do that. They're called new sovereignty pounds. They're on par with pounds sterling. So it's £250,000 in your bank account when we reach the critical mass. This is the equivalent of going to your bank manager and getting a mortgage of £250,000. So you walk in the room and say, I'd like a mortgage of £250,000, and he says, sign here, so you sign there, and he goes, £250,000 in your bank account. That's what they do. That's all we're doing. There's nothing magic here, there's nothing ridiculous, it's what they do. So we're emulating them. You qualify for £250,000 because you are a member. That's all you have to do. But with a very, very significant difference. This money is interest-free. So whereas if it was £250,000 borrowed through their system, you'd be paying £750,000 for the rest of your life. But in this system, right, it's interest-free. But it's better than that. It's much, much better than that, because this money becomes your money. Okay? There is no requirement to pay it back. A new pool of wealth in the hands of the Lawful Bank members to eventually replace the bankers' pool. Now, what's actually happening is this. We are creating a new pool of wealth, and we will be extracting that wealth from their pool of wealth. So they have got a pool of wealth that is in the hands of the bankers. Through the mechanism of the Lawful Bank, we will drain their system, and we will bring the wealth to our system in the hands of the people. So we're taking the money, the wealth from them, and we're putting it in our hands. That's effectively what we're doing. And you'll see as we explain the system how that actually happens. It's evolution, it's not revolution. As extraordinary as it seems, this is as a valid a process of the present banking system. We're not doing anything that's different to what they do. Okay, we are doing what they do. And the whole point about what we've, our whole strategy is to actually emulate what they've done. They've been doing this for a long, long, long time. Now we worked out what they're doing, the answer is, well, we'll do what they've done. And they can't stop us. The beauty about it is they cannot stop us. The new liquidity that we create is distributed through the people, not through the banks. Simple, isn't it? In order for this to happen, it requires just one key element. We need one thing, and one thing only for this to work: a critical mass of people. So when we have our critical mass of people, this happens. The one thing we need is we need the numbers. It's a numbers game. It could not be simpler. Without a critical mass, it cannot function. Dead in the water. Won't go. It won't float. Forget it. It ain't going to happen. If we do not get a critical mass of people, it just will not happen. But upon reaching the critical mass, job done. What is the critical mass? It is not a number. It is not a specific number. It relates to resources available through the membership. So as our membership grows and grows and grows, right, we get to the point where we actually reach a critical mass. The example I use is an island community. That is a Pitcairn Island in the South Pacific. I've been there. 80 people live on that island. They basically have all the resources. But imagine that you had 1,000 people when they arrive on an island, and 1,000 people say, well, we're here, we've got a long time to live here, so let's go and find out what we've got on the island. And let's assume that 1,000 people went around all the island in their various groups, and they came back at the end of the day and they said, well, we found cows, we found chickens, we found goats. We've got stream of water. There's gas bubbling from the sea, so we've got gas. We've got a wood, so we've got trees. Okay, and at the end of the day, what would happen is people say, well, actually, we've got all the resources we need to live our lives normally. So you divide those people into various groups, and you get people looking after the cows, the sheep, and the chickens, etc. You get people cutting down the wood. You get people digging up the mud to make bricks. And lo and behold, you start to build a community, you start to feed a community, you've got your gas supply, you've got your electricity, and you've got your water supply. You have a community. That 1,000 people, right, have within it a critical mass. So it doesn't need to be a large number of people. On a bigger island like the United Kingdom, we are, of course, competing with those resources. So the number may be higher. But the critical mass is going to be people. You people are part of the critical mass. But we need to actually build our critical mass to actually be able to provide all the resources. So the island analogy is a good one to imagine. Now bear in mind, the 1,000 people on this island don't have any money, do they? Do they need money? No? And this is the con that we fall into. We think we need money to give people jobs. It's lunacy. The money is just a tool to allow us to trade amongst ourselves. So what we would actually do on our island, we'd say, well, look, I don't want to cart my logs down the hill again to get a pail of milk because it's killing me. And my wife's annoyed because she does it more often than I do. So the bottom line is what we would do is, well, let's create money for our purpose, for our convenience. So we would create, say, £1 million, and we would give £1,000 equally to all of us. So we would distribute the money to us all for our benefit and use. So we can then trade. Instead of me going down with my logs, I just give them money. We establish the value of a commodity, and we're actually able to trade. So there's nothing wrong with money. So people say we don't need a society with money. It's a nonsense. Money does not represent wealth. The wealth is represented by the cows, the chickens, the pigs, the trees, and the people, the manpower. So we can understand within our island community, be that the United Kingdom, whatever, money is not wealth, we are the wealth. As soon as we understand that, as soon as we get that message across to the wider community, we get this job finished. So every individual is or has a resource. So if you can answer a phone, for example, you are a resource. If you can cut hair, you are a resource. If you cut timber, you are a resource. If you drive a van, a lorry, or a train, you are also a resource. So we're all a resource, aren't we? We're all capable of doing something. If you sit on your fat chuff all day and do nothing, you are a resource user and a liability, right? That's the bottom line. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of young people out there who don't have jobs. And they've been told that there are no jobs. It's a nonsense. They are the resource. The jobs are there for them. All we need to do is to actually create the money to give them employment, and they'll be darn sight happier. So when people says there's no money to give you jobs, you know it's a lie. It's a fundamental lie. It's designed to control. Let's go back to our island, okay? Because now that our community is running very well, we've got a couple of guys who've come to us and said, we'd like to control the water. And we've got 3 other guys that say, and we'd like to control the gas. And the islanders would all say, on your bike, we're not stupid. Because if you got control of the gas and you got control of the water, you just keep hiking the price up until we were your slaves. And what have we done? We've sold our bloody water to the Spaniards. We've given our gas and electricity to the French and the Germans, and we are slaves to their price increases. Yeah? So on our island, we're not stupid. There's no way that you ever give control of your essential resources to a small corporation. You share it amongst the people. And that's part of the process that we've got to understand, is we have to take back control of essential resources. Because unless we do so, we will continue to be slaves of the corporate elite. So if you make available your resource to our monetary system, and we eventually have all the resources we need in our system, i.e. the critical mass, then we have the ability to exchange those resources internally in our system. Yeah? Does that make sense? Right. And we can use our money as a means of exchange instead of theirs. It's possible for the system to work with a partial contribution, with a gradual increase in more resources becoming available. This might include a partial acceptance by you of payment in our new currency. So what you can actually do is you can go into your hairdresser and you can say to your hairdresser, I'm a member of the Lawful Bank, so are you. How much does it cost to cut my hair? £100. It doesn't cost me £100 to cut my hair. It costs me a lot less. It costs me £1.50. But I could offer to pay 90% in sterling and 10% in lawful pound. So it's a partial payment in lawful bank money. Now the hairdresser will take the £10 or whatever the figure is, and it's not a discount of 10% because they can spend that money. So what we're looking at is we can actually start using the lawful bank system progressively, bit by bit. So eventually the lawful bank will take over their system. The more people that get involved, the more resources that we have in our system, the more we take back control. It does not require abandonment of the old system, but a gradual transfer in stages. It makes it therefore entirely risk-free. So joining the lawful bank and starting to use the lawful bank is risk-free. And that's a very important thing. Nobody is asking you to jump out of one boat into the other. Okay, so it's a process. Okay, accessing key resources. This is what this is all about. Just an idea. Food, clothing, water, homes, fuel, education. If we start growing our own food, we can access our food. If we have people who make clothes, we can access clothing. Key problems being water, fuel, water, homes and fuel, education and health. And of course, education and health are people. Right, so most of these are all people-based, but the big issues there, water, homes, which is mortgages, and fuel. If we can find a mechanism of taking back control of those are the big ones. If you sat down and you actually made a list of your monthly expenditure, what you would have is mortgage or rent, yeah, council bloody tax, right, fines, taxes, more fines, and then you'd have your food, your clothing, fuel, etc. So you can see a big chunk of our monthly expenditure, what's keeping us on the treadmill, is servicing government needs, taxes and fines and council tax and electricity, gas, water and mortgage. Those are the big ones. If we can find a mechanism of reducing those significantly, our lives would improve dramatically, yeah? So how do we secure essential resources of housing, gas, electricity and water? We do that through the lawful bank, by reasserting our rights, okay? The fundamental principle of what we are doing is we are reasserting our rights. Our justification is under the doctrine of our sovereign right to self-governance and our right to claim ownership of our own essential resources. If we don't believe that, you're in the wrong room, right? If you do not believe that we have a right to control our own essential resources, then we have the slave mentality in the way, and we need to get rid of it. We have a right to claim our own essential resources because we are people on this planet, just like they are. and they have got no right to claim their profits on our blood, sweat and tears, okay? So we, the British Constitution Group, have declared ourselves in lawful rebellion. Article 61, Magna Carta, gives us that right. It's the people's absolute right and duty to rebel against unlawful government. And my point would be that any government that works for the benefit of the banking cartels against the interest of the people is unlawful. Does anyone disagree with that? We, the British people, have an absolute right to govern ourselves, guaranteed by our constitution and the rule of law. It's our right. We do not have to ask anybody. We don't need permission. It is our absolute right. So successive governments from 1972 onwards have ignored our constitution. In truth, it's gone on much earlier than that. It goes back 1911 when they started to change the structure of our parliament, etc. But more so since 1972, when they have quite deliberately started to transfer our national sovereignty to a foreign power. Their actions have been contrary to the best interests of the British people. They have never consulted and they have never asked our permission to transfer our sovereignty to a foreign power. They had no right to do so. And their actions add up to nothing less than a betrayal and to treason. Their arrogance is the stuff that brings the nation to civil war, because they keep pressing us. They keep pressing and oppressing, and they keep dictating to us. Our actions, however, are peaceful and lawful. We are using a peaceful and a lawful way to bring about change and to do away with unlawful government, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to do away with unlawful governance, and we're going to do it peacefully, and we're going to do it lawfully. We believe that the selling off of our essential resources, our gas, our electricity and water supply, was contrary to the best interests of the nation, making us all subject to the profiteering of the global corporate elite, bringing fuel poverty to many of our citizens in the process. People have died in this country because they couldn't afford electricity. That is absolutely unbelievable, right? We have allowed these people to cause people to die because they have sold off our resources to foreign corporations, and they have hiked the price up to the point where people die. It is estimated that 10 million homes will be in fuel poverty by the year 2016. That's 50% of the homes in this country will be in fuel poverty in just a couple of years' time. 50%. It's absolutely, boy, are we being treaded on. The selling off of a national resource has been a global plan to enrich corporate elites around the world, right? There is no justification for putting the people under the yoke of global corporate governance, is there? This has not just happened in the UK, it's happened in New Zealand, Australia, America, across the planet, right? The global elite have got together and worked out a plan. And in England, we've sold our resources to the French, the Germans and the Spaniards. In different countries, it's sold to the English, the Irish and the Welsh, whatever. So the point is, it's a global plan. It's a global plan to enslave us to the corporate elite. We claim the right to take back control of these, our essential resources, for the mutual benefit of us all. Why should a small clique actually be controlling the rest of us, right? They have no right to do so. So we claim the right to claim back our resources for the benefit of all and not just the global elite, in the same way that we claim the right to control the issuance of our own money. We can do this through the collective and peaceful and coordinated actions through the Lawful Bank. Right, through the mechanism of the Lawful Bank, we can take back control of the issuance of our money supply and our essential resources. Do we think that's a good idea? Okay, so let's get on with it. And we do not need, and let's be very clear about this, we do not need permission of the political elite who betrayed us to do so. We don't need their permission. We don't need to write to them. We don't need to march on Parliament. We don't need to sort of go and see these people in their surgeries. We don't need to talk to them. I'm a great believer of ignore them. They've had their chance. Now we ignore them. And when they come to us and say, can we help? We say, on your bike. Okay, that's the end of the first half. If you want to go and do whatever you need to do. Shave 10-minute break, is that 15, 20?
It's normally 20 and we measure it in 2 standard cigarette time. So, it is necessary. We don't even believe in standard time. Cigarette time we've moved. Thanks very much, Roger. carrying on with Roger. Thank you very much, everybody.
Just quickly, a gentleman here, Justin's in court tomorrow. He's quite new to this. Jason, sorry. He's quite new to this. If anybody's in and around and can give Jason a bit of a hand tomorrow, then have a chat with him later on, okay? That's what this is all about. Is that some of us who've learned this for a while can help with some bits and pieces of advice. Go to the court, and we all get thrown out, don't we? So, but the point is, it's a process that we've got to go through. So there we go. All right. I mean, this is stating the obvious, but I mentioned anyway. Is that over the last several years, we've all spent a great deal of time and energy learning what the problems are. We've done that. We've been there. We know what the problems are. We now need to start talking about the solutions. So when you go to meetings, what I like to suggest to people is start talking about the solutions. The more of us that are talking about the solution to the problem, the sooner we're going to get there, okay? All right, the Lawful Bank is the complete solution. Every aspect of it, it has many, many threads, and as you start to study the nitty-gritty of the Lawful Bank, you'll realise it is the solution to the total problem. The Lawful Bank is a conduit by which members can gain access to TAMS. TAMS stands for the Alternative Monetary System. It is a database that keeps a record of transactions and trades between us, and is thus a record and proof of our trading worth. So basically, it is a record of what's happening between us. If you had £1 million in the bank, and you went on Monday, you got a statement, and there it was £1 million, and you went back on Tuesday and it had been zeroed out, yeah, you try convincing a court that you're worth £1 million, because the banks control that information. So what we're doing is we're setting up a system that we will control about our worth, about our trade between us. In the good old days, it used to be the guy down the road would keep a record of what Jack owed to John, without computers, etc. And the guy who actually controlled the book was a very powerful individual, wasn't it? And of course, that was originally the bankers. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're creating our own system, a system that we control, and a system that will actually move the control of us from them. So that's an important point. TAMS is the alternative monetary system. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about a currency. We're talking about a completely alternative monetary system. TAMS can facilitate trade by providing the necessary liquidity, by creating liquidity. In a modern day economy, money is an essential tool for trade to flourish. Some of the free men people have been coming out saying we don't need money. Well, you're talking about we don't need wealth. That might be true, but the bottom line, money is a tool. Wealth is not money, money is not wealth, okay? So the bottom line, money is a piece of paper, and it's a very convenient thing to use. I don't want to cut my logs down the hill. And if I, for example, grow lettuce in the summer, and my friend makes sweaters in the winter, and I want to buy a sweater, what I will do is I will say to my friend, tell you what, I'll give you 60 lettuce in the summer for one of your sweaters because I'm cold. And what I would do is I'd write on a piece of paper, I owe you 60 lettuce, and I would give it to him. That is money. And what happens in the summer, he will bring that piece of paper back to me and say, right, pay up 60 lettuce. Yeah? So there's nothing wrong with money, it's just a tool. Money is not wealth, it merely represents wealth. Wide-scale bartering is not realistic. Again, people say we need to go back to bartering. No, we don't. We don't need to give up things which are very, very convenient for us. So TAMS is owned by its members. So TAMS is owned by everybody who signs up to the Lawful Bank. And it's operated for the benefit of us all. The managers who operate the system do so in accordance with the Constitution agreed by the members. So it's based on a Constitution, okay? Managers are employed by a committee of 100, so we have a committee of 100 people who will actually manage the overall structure, and the committee of 100 is actually elected by members at branch level. So you end up with branches who actually will end up electing a member to sit on the committee. The committee will oversee the staff members, the managers, and the managers will operate the system in accordance with the Constitution, which is agreed by the members. So this is from the bottom up, not from the top down. Very important, okay? TAMS is a private club. You join, you volunteer to join. When you join, there's certain requirements. The requirement is to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law, and it is not subject to government interference. It's got nothing to do with them, nothing whatsoever. Anybody who cares to join us is free to do so without restriction. If you want to join, you can. So we're not dictating you've got to do this, that and the other than uphold the constitutional provisions that have been agreed by the members. Chief of which, of course, is acceptance of our common law jurisdiction. This is one step removed from legislature. So what we're doing is we're creating our own authority, we're creating our own jurisdiction, we're creating our own legislature, and we can create our own laws on the back of that. If we agree to accept the common law jurisdiction, we are moving into legislation. The aim of the Lawful Bank is to create our own liquidity, our own money, that's the aim, and to issue same to our members for our benefit, just like the bankers do. So what we're doing is going back to the island scenario, okay? We are creating money and we're distributing the money equally. They create money and they keep it all for themselves, yeah? So what we've got is a situation where they create the money and these greedy individuals make us work to serve their interests. So we're actually doing what they do, but we're being fair and we're distributing amongst ourselves. Equality is the key. So unlike the bankers, our liquidity will be distributed equally for the benefit of the whole of society. So when they say there's no money to build bridges, it's a lie. When they say there's no money to employ nurses, it's a lie. When they say there's no money to do this, that, the other, it is a lie. There's no shortage of money because money doesn't cost anything. It's about skills, that's the wealth. So democracy dictates that we have a right to engineer the supremacy of our liquidity over that of the bankers. So we've got two systems going here. We've got their system and our system. Our system is an embryo, and it will take time and people, and it will take the support of the majority, well, not majority, but a sizable number of people for our system to get going. And our object is to actually engineer the supremacy of our liquidity over that of the bankers, so that their system starts to die as ours comes alive. This is a process that will take place as we garner support from a growing number of people who are waking up to the fact that the current banking system does not function for our benefit. They're getting there, you know, there's a lot of people who are still fast asleep, but they are getting there. You know, I want to kick so many people, but we can't do it. We're just going to keep working at them, okay? So your job now, hopefully, is to go out there and keep talking. Getting there, we are making progress. And I believe that what's going to happen is it's just going to be an exponential curve. All of a sudden, one day, they're all going to wake up and say, oh my God, you guys were right. Won't that be a nice day? Right, the basics. What is money? It's a means of account. So if you're a farmer and you've got chicken, cows and hens and pigs and forks and a tractor and a barn and hay and all the rest of it, and somebody says, what are you worth? Because I want to work out whether I want to do business with you. What you do not do is sit down and say, I'm worth 4 chickens, 48 cows, 39 bales of hen, 3 forks. You don't do that. You convert every one of those assets that you have into money. You give it a value, £4, £9, £25, whatever, and you add it all up, and then you say, I'm worth £1,000. So it's a means of account, yeah? A means of exchange. Once again, you don't want to go down the road with logs under your arm to trade for a pail of milk, so what you do is you actually have money. It's a means of exchange. It makes it simple. It's a means of storing value. I've grown 1,000 lettuce in the summer. I eat 50 myself, so I've got 950, so what I'm going to do is put it in the barn for the next 25 years? No. What I do is I sell it all and exchange it for these IOUs. I put the IOUs in a tin, and that means I am actually storing value. So that's what money is, okay? Money is what people are prepared to accept to represent value. It could be shells from the beach. The Polynesians used to use shells. It could be gold-backed paper. Our currency used to be backed by gold. Or as it is now, it could be fiat currency. All of those are perfectly acceptable. Yeah, it's all about who controls them. If you choose a gold-backed currency, and this is what a lot of people say, we need to back our currency with gold, but if you back your currency with gold, you put yourself in the control of those with all the gold, don't you? That's a bad idea. Because who's got all the gold? The bloody bankers. Yeah, so if anyone says we need to back our currency with gold, bad idea. If we choose a fiat currency, we are controlled by the issuers of that currency, aren't we? So the bankers are issuing the currency, so we're controlled by them. If we create our own currency, then we control our own lives. This is some early work for the Lawful Bank currency we're doing. We've done 20, we've done a 10, we've done a 5. We're still working on it, but we'll actually have our own paper currency, and our monetary system is backed by our pledges, right? Sound thinking. So it's not backed by gold, it's backed by our pledges. Members pledge £100 sterling if ever asked to do so. Members pledge to pay £100 sterling if ever asked to do so. This is a promise to pay, right? It is not a request for £100. The last thing that we want is £100. What we're doing is we're actually self-bonding the system. If we're not prepared to back our system up, who is? It's very, very important to note this. It is not a request for £100. The underlying value of TAMS derives from the collective pledges of a member, so it has real value. So you've done all these IOUs, right? That's our pledge, that's our backing. The people are backing their own currency. It's an undertaking by the members to guarantee their own monetary system. This is a very important part of the mechanism. Key factors about money, right? Money has no real value. It represents value. Anybody can make their own money, as I explained with my lettuce and the sweater. I can make money willy-nilly, providing I can back it up. When I write that IOU out, I promise 50 lettuce, right? There's no point me doing that unless I'm prepared to back it. That's the big problem with the monetary system at the moment. The whole thing is completely flawed and fraudulent because the backing's not there, right? What's been happening is they've been creating all this money on the back of other people's promises to pay and skimming off the top, and the bankers have taken the skim off the top, and the system is collapsing because it's lost credibility, it's lost its ability to support the value. Anybody can make their own money. There is no regulation against doing so. There is no regulation against fractional reserve banking. It doesn't say you can, it doesn't say you can't, okay, which is quite interesting, isn't it? Can you imagine the government coming out with a rule that says you are not allowed to make money out of nothing? People say, hang on a minute, right? So there is no law that says that banks can create money out of nothing. Interesting enough, it just attracted the attention of the Financial Services Authority, thank you. And they've said that the Lawful Bank is not authorised by them. Now what they haven't said is it's unlawful. What they've said is that if you bank with the Lawful Bank, they won't guarantee your money. Well, that's straight, they don't seem to guarantee it anyway, but never mind. Okay? But what they're not saying, of course, it's not unlawful, because it isn't unlawful. Anybody can create money out of nothing. It's perfectly legitimate. There is a copyright law. So it's illegal to copyright or to copy anybody's money. And of course, that's the thing about your currency, it's now copyrighted. So that is against the law. Interestingly enough, they can't copy our money either, right? So they can't go around reproducing our stuff. There is a regulation retaking deposits of other people's money. So pounds sterling, yeah? So if they create pounds sterling and we take pounds sterling and we start depositing in our bank, there's a law against that, it's their money. So we have to be very careful about the mechanism. So if you use somebody else's money, there will be conditions attached also. For example, tax. The reason they can tax you is because you're using their money. That's the terms and conditions. If you have a bank account, that is basically one of the terms and conditions in which you expose yourself to tax. So if you don't have their bank account, you have our bank account, there is no taxation, except what our members agree there should be. If we earn in our money, the government has no authority to tax us. If they want to tax us, they will have to recognise our money. They wouldn't dare, would they? Can you imagine the day where we need some money to pay taxes? You guys are doing this trade between yourself and we're being denied all this money. We want to recognise your money. Oh, that would be a lovely day, wouldn't it? Okay, so we can just create all our money and pay them off. Anyway, the bottom line is that there is no law that the government can actually control the fact that we pay taxes that we're earning our own money. If they want to do so, then we'll start playing with monopoly money. Can you imagine that? We're actually paying ourselves with monopoly money? That would make fools of them, wouldn't it? We are more than happy to make a contribution to the general running of the country using our money, right? Paying taxes in our money, conditional upon some major democratic changes. We want some changes, don't we? I don't think we're ever going to get there. I think we're going to take control before that happens. TAMS will create its own liquidity, its own money, and distribute this according to the constitutional principles agreed by its members. So it's a constitutional-based system, okay? It's a rule of law. Equality must be the basis of all of this. There is presently only one monetary system, yeah? Its existence allows for the flow of commerce both internationally and nationally. There's nothing wrong with the monetary system. It's who's controlling it that's the problem. Okay, but the bottom line is that the monetary system is essential for commerce to flow, and if we had a second monetary system, yeah, it would provide competition to the monopoly. It would challenge the monopoly of the bankers and provide an alternative medium by which trade could flow. So we could choose to flow money through their system or our system. And what I'm suggesting is this, that it will actually slowly but surely will start to use our system as more and more people actually tie themselves to the Lawful Bank and start to accept 10% of their payment in the Lawful Bank and then 15 and 20%. Slowly but surely our system will start to take control. A second system will provide the proof that the existing system is corrupt. Because you can imagine in our system not paying interest, you've bought yourself a £250,000 home and you're paying £500 a month, whatever, to pay off the capital, and your neighbour who's bought the same home and he's paying £2,000 a month, he's going to say, well, how is it your mortgage is so much more smaller than mine? And we say, because we're a member of the Lawful Bank and there's no interest. How can you do that? And you explain it to them, they say, whoa, whoa, that's disgusting. How do I sign in the Lawful Bank? Just sign up, okay? So the bottom line is, through example, we will demonstrate that their system is corrupt, and their system is corrupt. A monopoly monetary system has allowed the bankers to control the media, political parties, governments, the monetary supply, booms and busts, all resources. It's a fact, isn't it? The banking system controls all of these things. No monopoly equals no control. So it's a very important point. By creating an alternative system, we are actually destroying the monopoly, and through that mechanism we're destroying their control. The bankers have given unlimited funds to corporations to speculate on essential resources such as food and energy. So what happens is this: a corporation decides it wants to buy the world's wheat supply, and the bankers, because they create money out of nothing, give all the money to the corporation. They speculate on the wheat, whack up the prices, and who pays the bill? We do. It's the same with fuel, right? The bankers create the money out of nothing, they give it to the oil companies, they speculate, whack up the prices, and who pays the bill? We do. So an alternative system actually starts to control that mechanism. And of course they're making the profits at our expense. Yeah? It is through a network of private central banks that the nations of the world are kept under the thumb of the cartel through debt. Debt is a control tool. We are all money slaves. It's a fact, yeah? So an alternative monetary system would destroy the control of the banking cartel and could eliminate the debts of every nation on the planet. As mind-boggling and as unbelievable as it may seem, eliminating world debt is as simple as creating an alternative monetary system. So this is quite dynamic, isn't it? We're talking about creating a system that may start here in this country and will solve the world debt problem. And how many children will be able to have a meal in the morning because their country is no longer in debt? It's quite substantial. The ultimate expression of people power is in our ability to coordinate our action to achieve a commonly desired objective. We hate these politicians, but they're still controlling us. And the reason they do that is because we're not coordinating our actions. This is a very important statement. The ultimate expression of people power is in our ability to coordinate our actions to achieve a commonly desired objective. We can do this because now we've got the tool to do it. The Lawful Bank is the tool where we can coordinate our actions and take back control. The Lawful Bank will urge every member to act in unison on a clear objective. And it is through these collective actions that we can affect our control of those currently controlling us. So this is true democracy at work. Yeah. So we can take back control of the people controlling us using the mechanism of the Lawful Bank. If the critical mass will not act in unison, if we will not act in unison, then the elites who do so, and they're very good at working together, aren't they? They meet each year, Bilderberger groups, and they work out what they're going to do, and they use the banking and the money to control our lives. So if we won't work together, they will continue to oppress us for their benefit. We are masters of our own destiny if only we just woke up and realised it. We in this room have realised it, we're starting to get the picture. We need to start getting a message out to the wider audience, and we are slowly starting to do that. Okay, when you sign up to the Lawful Bank, we actually do three things. To sign the pledge of £100 sterling, that backs the system, that's the people pledging to the system. To agree to the jurisdiction of a common law court, so that's legislative. Okay, and to use the funds created in your account as and when requested. So we're asking you to work together to spend the money in your bank account together at the same time, in unison. In parallel with the building of the Lawful Bank membership, we are also creating an alternative land registry. We are looking at alternative peace officer force. We're hoping to train in Birmingham and around the country, an alternative team of bailiffs, our own common law courts, our own jurisdiction, our own judiciary, and effectively what we're doing is we're talking about creating an alternative governance, because we have the right to do that, right? They have got a monopoly on governance at the moment. Who said that? Where does it say that we can only have one government? And in fact, the law of nations recognises the right of any group of people. We here can create our own system. We have a right to do so. And the law of nations recognises the right of any group of people to create their own society and govern themselves. Okay? It's an interesting thing. I've been studying this and it's very, very fascinating. And in fact, this is happening now all over the world. You've got tribes in America who've declared their own nation states. And they've gone to the United Nations and they just said, we're here, guys. And the job of the United Nations is to tell everyone else. And of course, we're talking about wrestling with the authority in this country. We're saying, we're not accepting your authority anymore because you guys have not obeyed the Constitution and the rule of law. We don't need you, we don't want you. And that's, our right is secured under international law as well. We are not slaves of this pack of weasels, and they are weasels, aren't they? I can think of a million words to go in there, but
Weasels is good.
I remain quite polite, okay? Especially when they are in defiance of the Constitution and the rule of law. We should have a competition, shouldn't we? Fill in the best word instead of weasels. Every individual who we employ in the service of the people as a peace officer, bailiff, a court clerk, judge, will be paid from our pool of resources, created out of nothing, just like they do, because they create the money to pay them. So you've got a police officer saying, look, you're actually oppressing me. The reason you're oppressing me because you're being paid by them. All of a sudden, here are the dynamics. We'll pay you. We'll pay you twice what they're paying you, whatever, and it's tax-free. Now, once we're able to demonstrate that we can spend this money, that's the crucial issue. Once we can demonstrate that we can actually spend this money, that's a very, very, very big enticement. So the police officer is going to turn around and say, well, okay, what's the deal here? We'll pay you. We'll pay you more than they pay you if you will uphold common law and stop oppressing us with statutes. Okay? We will only recognise properly documented mortgages where full disclosure has been given. Well, that stuffs them up big time, doesn't it? Okay, because they didn't give full disclosure about the mortgages. So we have a right to actually deny their mortgage. Remember, we've got our own land registry now. So what's going to happen is they're going to turn around and say, there's a mortgage on your property, and we're going to say, no, there isn't. Because we've got a land registry that says there is no mortgage. And they say, well, our land registry says it does. We say, well, our land registry says it doesn't. Whose land registry is right? Mortgages that carry interest are, of course, deemed unlawful. If we go back to our £1,000 per person on the island, it's £1 million. And of course, in our system, we actually distribute £1,000 to every individual. There's £1 million. There's only £1 million that can ever be repaid back to the system. What the bankers do is they attach interest. And they say, pay back the £1 million. So all the islanders would pay back the £1 million to the bankers, and then the bankers would turn around and say, well, what about the interest? And the islanders would look at each other and say, well, who's got the interest? Of course, the interest wasn't ever created. It doesn't exist. So it's impossible to pay that interest back. You can only pay £1 million back because that was all that was created in the first place. So the bankers have got on the hook because the bankers turn around and say, well, if you want to pay us the interest, we'll lend you it. And they lend the interest so we pay it back. But in lending the interest, they attach another 10%. And that's the spiral. That's why there's a constantly increasing money supply, and that's why properties go up. Okay? So we're being fed this complete scam. So within the system, interest is unlawful because it's fraudulent. Members will be provided with two separate accounts. The property account we've discussed, a current account will go through the current account. This is what actually happens. For current accounts, we will adopt the fractional reserve banking system. At the moment out there, across the internet, people are saying fractional reserve is the problem. No, it's not. There's nothing wrong with fractional reserve banking at all, as long as it's used for our benefit. What's wrong with fractional reserve banking is if you attach it with interest, and you also attach it to a problem where people can't repay it. That's the problem. Unable to pay the debts and interest. There's nothing wrong with fractional reserve banking. And the way we use it is actually enormously beneficial. So we will adopt the fractional reserve banking system. We will buy their money from members using our money. So what happens is that if you bring £100 sterling into our system, we will buy it from you. We won't deposit their money into our bank, because then we're breaking their laws and they'll be knocking on our door. So what we will do is we will buy sterling with our money, so we will exchange it. And when we bought their sterling pounds, we will retire that money, right? We will replace their money with our money, and we know that our money is worth £20, £20 of our money is worth £20 of theirs, because we have got money to back it up. So what we've done is we've created an interface. So we need to work with their system, we can't ignore their system, so we're going to gradually take control of their system by using this interface. So their £20 is worth our £20, and can we prove it? Yes, we can, because we've got their money somewhere. Each sterling note retired is replaced by a sovereignty note. We call them sovereignty notes because it's a good name, it's about sovereignty, isn't it? Pounds sterling that are retired at community level. So it doesn't go in a big account, it doesn't go into my bank account anywhere, it goes at community level. So each community is designed to look after its own reserves, yeah? So it's once again, it's people power in effect. So you don't have a top control system, it's from the bottom up, so each individual community is designed to look after its own money. Where you put that money is your own business, you can hire a safe, you can do what you will, but it's down to the local community to look after its own reserves. All of that money is subject to audit, so we do have a system whereby you can't get groups of people who are sort of trying to take advantage of the sterling, and besides it's not going to be worth anything anyway. The only thing that's going to be worth of any value at all is going to be our currency. Right, so for every pound sterling brought over to our system, we will create £10 worth of sovereignty pounds in each member's current account. We do not create 10 times worth of cash, right? If you bring £1,000 cash over, we create £1,000 worth of cash, but we create £10,000 worth of liquidity, right? So 10% is always in cash. So that means we can always guarantee the cash in the system, yeah? Now what happens in their system, I think it's about 3% is in cash. In our system, it will be 10% cash. So you now have £1,000 in your bank if you brought £100 worth of sterling over. Now what we're hoping people to do is they will start spending our money in the bars and the vegetable shops and the hairdressers. We hope they start spending Lawful Bank money, and when somebody says, what's this worth? We will say, well, it's worth exactly the same. And if they say, well, can you guarantee it? We say, well, you go to a local branch and they'll exchange it for you. And once they've done it a few times, the message will get through that our money is worth exactly the same as their money. Yeah? In your account, if you've got £1,000 in your account, you can only draw out 10% in cash, because that's the only cash that we've got available to us anyway. But you can spend £1,000 internally in our system. So we've created our own liquidity, haven't we? And we've used their money to do so. The fractional reserve ratios will apply as follows. If you brought £10,000 over, we will give you £100,000 worth of liquidity in your bank account. The second 10,000 it reduces, and it keeps reducing down to par, so that if you brought £100,000 over to our system, we would give you liquidity of 550,000 sovereignty pounds. That's how the system works. It's designed to encourage people using the fractional reserve system to bring money from their bank system to ours. That's why the fractional reserve system is beneficial to us. It actually gives us wealth that we didn't have, using their money and the fractional reserve system. So fractional reserve is pretty damn good, isn't it? Yeah. Now what's happening actually under the system is that we're extracting wealth from their bank, from their system, and we're actually creating new wealth in our system. But who's the new wealth in the hands of? The people. Who's losing out? The bankers. Yeah? Because remember, when they created wealth, they created debt. And who were the debtors? We were. So we're actually taking their system, stripping it of their wealth, bringing it across to ours in the hands of the people. Very simple, but it's very clever. And it's very profitable from our perspective. How many people have got £100,000 in the bank? Not many. Never mind. People who do have a lot of money, a lot of wealthy people, this is designed to encourage them as well. So if I'm a multi-millionaire and I brought £100,000 over, and I've got my £550,000 of new liquidity, I've got another £100,000, I'm going to be looking around the room for people who actually have not used their fractional reserves, their ratios. And I'm going to say, here you are, here's £100,000. And you're going to say, thank you. And here's the deal, let's contract. You bring the £100,000 to our system and we'll do a deal. Yeah? So the rich man is actually going to be looking for a lot of poor people who don't have anything to do a deal. In fact, the poorer the better. So the wealthy people are going to be looking for people to share their wealth with. So this is a wealth leveling thing. It's not a wealth transfer thing. Everybody benefits. The only people that don't benefit are the bankers. Is there anyone complaining about that? No. And it's designed to attract wealthy people, because I know a lot of wealthy people have worked hard. They've used their initiative, so on and so forth. Not all of them. We'll have that conversation another day. But the bottom line is we are designing the system to actually extract as much money from their system to our system, and encouraging everybody. Encouraging the wealthy people to share their wealth, and at the end of the day, we all benefit, because we're all going to end up with the money in the bank. And who's paying the bill? The bankers. About bloody time too. In essence, our new wealth is created in our system, and it's positive liquidity. So what you've got is you've got a debt-based system, and we're creating a positive liquidity system, because there is no debt. We now own all the wealth. The wealth in their system was represented by debt owed to the bankers. The wealth in our system is represented by positive liquidity in our hands. The exchange of sterling for sovereignty pounds provides an interface that allows us to use both their system and our system until our system becomes dominant. Okay, so you can understand what's going on here. As the word goes out, if you brought £100 from that system, sterling, into our system, it's been retired, and you've now got £1,000 and you've spent that £1,000, what are you going to do with your next £100 sterling? Bring it over. And everyone's going to say, how did you buy that bloody Rolls Royce there? You say, well, because I'm a member of Lawful Bank. How do you do that? You just sign up. So the whole process is designed to encourage people to bring the money over. Depending entirely on the wishes of a majority, again, this is a democratic system, the amount that wealthy people may transfer may be capped. So, you know, I don't know whether people will decide that a multi-millionaire should be restricted. I think we should encourage the wealthy people to bring their money over, because that's the way their system is going to suffer, the more wealth that they bring over. But a billionaire, don't get that. I really do not understand billionaires. How do you spell £1 billion? There's no way in a million years you can ever spend £1 billion. I mean, Fred Goodwin had a pension of £700,000 a year. That is sheer greed, absolute greed. How do you spend £700,000 a year? You know, it's complete and utter greed. And people with massive rows of digits on their bank accounts, it's ego. And these people are actually causing other people to starve and suffer because of their greed. You know, and I think they're mentally ill, personally, right? So I think that possibly we would cap the wealthy. Maybe we'll turn around and say maybe 100 million, I don't know. It's not for me to decide. I think it's something we need to think about. That was probably a debate that'll go on for another 1,000 years, but I won't get involved. I think we should encourage successful people. So capping, I think we should consider very carefully. The fractional reserve provision must be progressively reduced, because you can't just go creating money out of nothing. You can't take all of their money and multiply it by a factor of 5. You have to start reducing it. So first in is first served. Everybody has an equal opportunity to act quickly. Everybody has an opportunity to make the Lawful Bank work. If you want to sit on the fence, right, you will lose out. Right? So you have got an equal opportunity to help us make this work. Sit on the fence, lose out, that's your opportunity, right? So it is designed to motivate people to join quickly and to not sit on the fence. So, you know, the sharp pencils in the box in this room, we will benefit. We will benefit because we've taken the time and effort to come to this meeting tonight. We've taken the time and effort to sign up the Lawful Bank. We've probably taken the time and effort to talk to our family, our friends, etc. And those other people who are scornful of our effort, guess what? Too bad. Right, there is absolutely nothing wrong with creating money out of nothing, provided it's repaid. Right, And of course, that is regardless of the time this might take. So I've just told you that I'm going to give you all this money, the Lawful Bank provides for all this money. And now I'm saying there is absolutely nothing wrong with creating money out of nothing, providing it's repaid. Because if you just keep creating money out of nothing, the thing is going to explode. You get massive inflation. So the principle is it must be repaid. That's the stability in the system. If you put money into the system, you have to be able to take it back out of the system as a control factor. Okay? So how can we justify apparently free money created by a fractional reserve system if the principle is that all money must be repaid? Is that a contradiction? Okay? No, it's not. And the reason it isn't is because we will apply a transaction charge of 0.25% for all transactions. So it is through this charge that the money created by fractional reserve banking will be repaid to the system and then cancelled if necessary, or it can be replenished. The point is that's the control, it's the ability to bring it back. Transaction charges are thus, if you spend £10, the fee will be 2.5 pennies. If you spend £100, the fee will be 25 pence. It's not a lot of money. If you spend £1,000, it's £2.50. This is the way it works. So if you want to spend £1,000, if you want to buy a car for £1,000, you will need an additional £2.50. Coming back to the island, right? You pay the money out of the money that's available, you don't add it on the top. So if you want to spend £1,000, you need £1,002.50 in order to spend that £1,000. So, you spend £1,000, you pay £2.50. It goes to the next gentleman. He pays £1,000, he pays £2.50. 400 times later, 400 multiplied by £2.50 is 1,000. So the whole amount of money that we've released free is actually come back to the system, and we can re-release it. And of course you can do that with any amount of money, provided there's a mechanism by which the money can come back to the system. There is a control mechanism. Any fixed amount of money used 400 times is repaid in full through the transaction charges, right? So money created out of nothing is therefore not free money, it is just easy money. And there's the difference, yeah? So we're not talking about money out of nothing, we're just talking about easy money. And the difference is that the profit that's made on the use of the money, through commerce, that's what happens, that's what it's there for, through commerce, is not going to the bankers, it's coming back to the people. So we're getting the benefit of the money, whereas previously the bankers were getting the benefit of the money. So it's not magic roundabout stuff, it's logical, it's simple, and it's basic maths. Now once you spend that £1,000 400 times, and then 500 times, we've got surpluses. And when you've got surpluses, you've got money to spend on hospitals, schools, and so the movement of money, which we're all paying, and by the way, that this is a sort of tax, isn't it? So as we use money, and the more money we use, the more taxes we're paying, because the more 0.25% we're paying. So it's a logical and sensible system, okay? So everybody's property account will be credited with £250,000. So this is the other side. That's your current account. Let's go back to the property account. I do mention this because obviously there must be sensible age restrictions. The principle of £250,000 is that you have got £250,000 to buy a house. You don't give £250,000 to a 16-year-old boy, okay? Because you buy a house and we've got all sorts of trouble. You know, who wants a house with a 16-year-old boy with all his mates there? Oh, I'd get so much strife, wouldn't I? All right, so this money is used exclusively for property and will thus have property as an asset backing. So if you've got £250,000 and you buy a house, the system actually has asset backing of the property. So what we now have is this, that the property which was in their system is now in our system. So it's a transfer of asset value as well, isn't it? Yeah. So you can see how this is all working. Through the mechanism using the Lawful Bank, we're actually transferring the asset value as well as the wealth from their system to our system. And we do it literally by creating the £250,000. And of course, this land is now registered on our property register. On death, the property that you purchased with the £250,000 will revert to the system. So there is no inheritance of the property. So what actually happens is when you die, you pay back the debt. That's the way we should be paying our debts back, shouldn't we? Okay? So in actual fact, once again, it's not free money. It's just a loan for life. And what happens is the system creates it, The system lends it to you, and on your death, you've had the benefit of that house all of your life, and on death, it goes back to the system. So we're depriving nobody. There is no need for inheritance because every family, every individual is entitled to a home, and the system provides the money for you to have a home. And we will all have a lot nicer homes, okay? So the system is providing that. So everybody is in effect gifted £250,000, enough to buy a home, and inheritance becomes a redundant feature of society. So we're not all waiting for our mums and dads to die. What a nice world that would be, okay? Right, we'll provide everybody with a universal income from birth to death. This is another very, very simple fact of life here, is that money it has no value. So we can actually create a universal income to give to everybody from birth to death. And in fact, that's what the benefit system is. That most of us will appreciate that when actually born, that the banking system creates money and gives it to the government on our behalf. This is what we're doing. But we're just converting it into a universal income. So from birth to death, you will have the ability to pay for the basics. This will eliminate poverty. It's so simple, right? Now, obviously, some people are going to say, well, all those lazy and feckless people are going to go in their homes and sit there smoking and drinking all day, and we're paying them out. Well, they're welcome to that. You know, they'll die early and save some money in the National Health Service. The point is, most people want to work, most people want to engage in society, most people want to enjoy their lives, and if they want to enjoy their lives, all they've got to do is come out of their doors, yeah? Poverty has been removed, and they get a job, and they can have nice cars, nice houses, and improve their lifestyle. So we think that this will encourage people to enjoy their lives more because there is no poverty. There's no worry about paying the gas bill, no worry about paying the electricity bill, no worry about paying council tax, no worry about paying water bills. All of a sudden, poverty is gone. Aren't we all living a better life just because we have control of our own alternative monetary system? On death, all account balances revert to the system. So again, you put the money in, and if I gave each person in this room £1,000, what you're going to do is spend it. There's no point saving it. There's no benefit in saving anymore because you've got from birth to death, you've got the ability to actually enjoy your life. So the pressure is off, and on your death, all the money just reverts back to the system. So you push it out, you take it back in. It's simple, isn't it? Right? How do we spend our newly created wealth? This is the key to everything. Okay. Here we are creating all this money. So you've got these bank accounts. How do we actually how do we actually spend this new liquidity? The Lawful Bank will set up escrow accounts for all high street banks. So the Lawful Bank will have the Halifax Bank, the Lloyds Bank, World Bank of Scotland, and so on and so forth. So we will set up escrow accounts on behalf of all these banks. You can use the new liquidity in your Lawful Bank property account to pay any outstanding mortgage. So you ring up the Lloyds Bank and you say, how much do I owe you? And they will say, you owe me £100,000, and you will then pay from your bank, your Lawful Bank, from your £250,000 sitting there, you will pay off your mortgage, right? So you will say, I've just paid my mortgage, it's gone, and it's actually sitting in the Lloyds Bank account. You paid off your mortgage. The banks will say, you've just created that money out of nothing. And we will say, so did you. And there's no law that says we can't, and there's no law that says they can. So where are they going to take us? They're going to take us to court, are they? Well, that's fine, because People United, there might be 1 million homes signed up to the law. And we're going to turn around and say to the bankers, which one of us do you want first? There's 1 million in line here, and we can pay for the best QCs on the planet. Oh, and there's one other thing. We'll see you in our common law courts, not your administrative hearings, which are actually unlawful in this country. Our Constitution provides that the only courts that have any authority in the country are common law courts. And a common law court is a jury of our peers. And guess who the jury of our peers are? You guys. Now the law says that we cannot lose through fines or forfeiture except by a jury of our peers. That's the Constitution, that's Magna Carta, which has been restated even in their courts. So it's game, set and match the people and up the bankers, yeah? So yeah, we're happy to see them in our courts, we're happy to see them in our common law courts, we're happy to see them in our common law courts, with our juries, with our peers, and I would like to put a great deal of money on the table now which way those judgments will go. So we are effectively challenging their monopoly on the creation of money based on the democratic principle that the nation's money belongs to the nation. It belongs to us. It does not belong to the banks. Plus, their money has no real value. In contrast to ours, which is backed by the pledges of our members, our labour and our sweat equity. So you can see, you can fully appreciate why it's so important that we have given a pledge to our money. We are standing behind our money. It has real value. Because if you are prepared to promise to pay £100, that means you're prepared to go to the field and plant the seeds, to grow the lettuce, to actually back your commitment. That's why the pledge is important. What backing does theirs have? Can anyone tell me? Right? Bugger all. Their money is backed by absolutely sweet nothing. Ours is backed by the pledge, the sweat and tears of the people. We have democratic legitimacy, right? Because we have joined this system voluntarily, right? And we have a system that has a constitution which is voted for by the people, for the people, right? Bottom up. We have been transparent. We have told the people we are creating money out of nothing. You all know what we're doing. We have been transparent. Where does their authority come from? Right? Where do they get the authority to create the money? There is none. We've got the authority because we have got permission of the people, because we have got our constitution. And where do they get their money from? Out of nowhere, just like us. We are more legitimate than they are, and we have our own authority. The property account will provide new liquidity with which to pay off an existing mortgage. So we have a situation whereby we can actually first and foremost pay off mortgages. If you do not have a mortgage, then it will provide money to buy a new build home. This is very important, that we will invest in new homes. The reason that we want to invest in new homes is because if we started issuing all this money to buy from existing land stock or property stock, it will push the prices up, will cause massive inflation. So the first thing that we will do is we will release money to build new homes. So all of a sudden we're going to have lots of jobs available, no shortage of money, lots of jobs, new homes, everyone moving in new homes. And what's going to happen? Anybody who rents a property is going to move out. So the landlords are not going to be able to find new tenants. So what are they going to do? They're going to sell their empty homes, at which point we will release money to buy empty homes. Yeah? So what happens is the price of property comes down. Okay? So at long last, no family in this country will be without a home. All because we create our own monetary system. Yeah? So we're taking back control of our system and the prices of property as well. But there's something even better than that. Because the bottom line is that when you buy a house and it's worth £300,000, of which £100,000 is land, right? When you've bought your house and sitting on the land, who else can use that land? Nobody. So why pay for it? So we will strip out the land value, so you do not have to pay £300,000, you only have to pay £200,000. The person selling the property will be paid £300,000 because the system can create the money, create liquidity, and pay off the full amount, so no one loses out. Again, what's happening here is the transfer of wealth is coming from their banking system, their security system, and their system is starting to collapse now, isn't it? And as ours grows and their collapses, there's going to be a rush of people leaving their system as fast as they can say backhander. Okay? And why? Because we are getting the benefit. Now here's the situation now, because you've got the bankers turning around and saying, well, we're not prepared to accept your money. And we're going to say, well, why not? There's no reason why you shouldn't, because all your employees will accept our money. And they're going to say, well, why would they want to do that? And they say, because we're going to give them corporate liquidity. So the employers are going to be saying to the managers, we'll take the money, we'll accept payment of the Lawful Bank money because we will join, because we'll get a quarter million quid. So we're all benefiting. Who's losing? The bankers. Everybody benefits. The only people who are losing out are the bankers. Your current account. You will use the money created in your current account to pay your gas, electricity, water, council bills and credit cards. So what we've got is you bring £100 from their system, you've got £1,000. You get your bills from electricity, gas and water company, and you literally pay them by transferring money from your bank to the water company, the gas company, electricity company. And they're going to say, whoa, hang on a minute, you haven't paid your bill. And we're going to say, yes we have, here's my bank account, I can prove it. I sent money, 50 quid, from my bank to the water company, I can prove it. And they're going to say, well, you just made that money out of nothing. So that's what everyone does. It's not a problem. Yeah. And we're going to say to them, well, and also your employees will accept our money. So once again, the electricity company is going to say, well, we'll take you to court. We'll say, yeah, right, same argument. Which one do you want to start with? We can keep these people in the court for the next 100 years. This is people power in action. This is when we work together on a system, the same idea, together, we will take back control. It's not precise, it's simple. Okay, it's about a system that provides a mechanism whereby we dictate to them. And I'm sorry, but where did you get the water from in the first place? Excuse me, this water falls from our sky, it lands on our ground, it goes down our pipes, and you're trying to tell me, a Spanish company, that you want me to pay that bill? It ain't going to happen. So what's actually happening is this. Through this mechanism, because they will be required to use our banking system, we are taking back control of our resources. So the Lawful Bank allows us to take back control of our water, our gas, our electricity, and of course pay our council tax for 1/10 of what we're paying at the moment. And the only people who are going to argue are the elites at the top of it to these corporations, right? Because they themselves are getting the benefit. All of a sudden, all of us are getting the benefit, and as far as I'm concerned, it's game, set, match the people. This can only happen when we have signed up to the critical mass of users. Let's not be mistaken about this simple fact that this only happens when we've got that critical mass. So this is a number that may include 1 million homeowners working in unison. It may be 250,000, maybe 500,000, who knows, we'll discover in time. This is people power in action. Right, let's get started. How do we actually create these banks? How do we create these branches? The key to our success is in our ability to establish an extensive network of branches, as well as the aforementioned critical mass of people. So we need a critical mass of people, we also need to start building up branches. Yeah? So we need a physical location around the country. To set up a branch, initially we need one person and a contact address. We have to start somewhere, and we start with it. Any one of you in this room can actually put your name forward as a branch, right? You can call your branch the name of your street, it doesn't matter. We start somewhere. We've got to start with one person who's prepared to put themselves forward as a branch. That one person then needs to find 5 others to act as directors of their branch, 3 of whom we ask to be property owners or members of a property housing cooperative. This is not for collateral, this is just to anchor each branch in location so we know it's going to be permanently fixed. Yeah? So we want 6 people. It could be 6 members of the family. It's not about having any money, it's not about having the collateral, it's just to be able to anchor the branch in a location. So once you've named your branch, it's there permanently. If we're going to create a banking system, we need some credibility. The obvious credibility is a fixed location. So it's pretty logical, isn't it? So I just made the point that a branch must have a fixed location. Each branch is a profit center. It is designed as a small business. So you can actually set up a branch and actually make profits from it. You can employ people, and you can start by building your membership to 100 people, 1,000 people, and you can start earning money from using this system. A branch gets access to TAMS through which they can facilitate loans. So people will come to you and say, I'd like a loan for my business, I'd like to borrow £50,000, and we will charge a fee. Each branch will charge a fee. I've suggested 10%, it could be less. And your branch could earn maybe £10,000 a month because you're lending out to local businesses or for cars or whatever. So each branch can actually get access to TAMS, and through TAMS creating money out of nothing, lend it out to your local community or to individuals who want to buy cars, etc. A branch does not hold any money. It acts merely as the facilitator. So you can run a branch from your home. Yeah? All you've got to do is be efficient as a manager and go out and get the business. So a branch is a business, it's a small business. Each branch will establish a network of retailers who will act as cash deposit and withdrawal points. So as a little branch, you'll go to your local retailers and you say, will you act as the cash withdrawal and deposit point? And there are benefits to the retailer to do so. So he'll end up with a little sign saying, this is a Lawful Bank branch. And in that retailer, you'll be able to go into the retailer, he will have a terminal, and you'll have a card, and you'll take your money in, you say, here's £100, here's my card, I would like to deposit this £100 into my bank account. The retailer will take your £100, he'll put it in his till, he will zap your card, and lo and behold, the money will go from his bank to your bank, right? So you'll now have £100 in your bank account. And if you want to draw it out, you take your card in there, and you will actually give him the card, and you say, I want to draw out £100, he will zap your card, and he will take £100 from his till and give it to you. And what happens is the money will transfer from your bank account to his bank account, okay? So the tills are just being used as the cash draw, yeah? But the actual money is transferred across the bank accounts themselves. Now, retailers are used to handling money, so it's no big deal. And because you've got 20 or 30 retailers in the vicinity, if you go into one retailer and it doesn't have the cash available, just go over the road, yeah? And remember, most people do not pay their bills with cash. Most people need their bills or their money just for beers and a bit of shopping. So we're not talking about a great deal of money. We're not changing a lot of money. We're not putting anyone at risk. We're not changing the security features of retailers. So we're actually using a facility that's already available, using the retailers. Branches must account for money held by retailers. That's just a normal management function, which will represent a small amount across a large number of retailers. Choice of retailers is important. There's crooks out there. People are dishonest. There's no reason for them to be dishonest because nobody's short of money anymore, okay? Because everyone's got money. So we believe that the whole element of risk attached to handling money becomes a thing that pass almost. But there's always got to be people who take advantage. But also insurance for cash is a possibility. A physical record of all accounts will be held at branch level. Data records will be held at 4 separate and secure sites, constantly updated. So we are anticipating that they're going to attack the system, yeah? Do we think that this government and these bankers are going to get away with it? No. We think they're going to try and attack the system, so we're building security to prevent it, yeah? Retailers will earn 50 pence for every deposit and withdrawal. This will give them the income to justify the work involved. So when you go and withdraw out £100, they earn 50p. If you draw out £10, they earn 50p. You know, so whatever amount they get paid. So at the end of the day, they might earn 20 or 30 pounds additional to their income, which a lot of retailers will be very, very appreciative of. It will pay my wine bill. Right, how well advanced are our plans? We presently have working software. We have a system. It's all done. It's all complete. We have a working bank. We have card readers, and we actually have the cards. We now need a critical mass of members, which we're working on. Every single day we get people signed up, and we now need the branches. I'm expecting people in this room to put their names forward so that we can start the system. It is up to you. It comes down to the people working together, and we need people to put their names forward as a branch. That's what we do now. If you're not already a member of the Lawful Bank, please sign up today. And of course, importantly, encourage your family, encourage friends, anybody you meet in the street, on the bus, you know, everywhere you go. Drive them mad, get them signed up. It doesn't cost anything. There's no commitment other than we just want to know that they're interested. And once we've got them online, once we've got their email addresses, we can start educating them and informing people. It really is a case of we need people to put themselves forward. The first of the 6 directors, and because our network has grown, almost invariably, we will bring people to you. You do that and leave the rest to us. Those are the 2 websites, lawfulbank.com. You just go on and put your name in. That's all you have to do. We ask people if they would please join the British Constitution Group because that keeps me on the road. Okay? There is only one thing stopping us from succeeding. It comes down to one again. We need a critical mass of people. There is only one thing stopping us from succeeding. It's ourselves. It could not be easier. This is the solution, a complete solution to take back control of our lives, and the only thing that is stopping us is ourselves. Are there any questions?
In this day and age when we've got online banking and everything, is there really that much of a need for physical money?
Well, yeah, because it's a credibility. The reason that we're looking at the cash, the money, is this, is that it's a marketing tool. It's building credibility in the system, because when you actually spend a Lawful Bank note, that's a very, very powerful message that's coming across. That means this is real money. So it is a marketing tool. That you're right in essence that we don't need cash money, but people expect them to be able to spend money, and that's why we're using it.
I understand that you don't know what the number for the critical mass will be, but will there be a point at which you'll recognise that it's a critical mass, and what will that recognition be?
The mechanism is this, okay, is that within your community, if you identify what you normally need, right, you need to go to your vegetable shop, you need to get your lawns cut, you need to get your hair cut, you need to get sort of the plumber, the baker, the candlestick maker, you need to get those resources in your local community. So if you imagine what you normally need, a mechanic and so on and so forth, when we have got a percentage of those in place in the various parts of the country, those local communities will start to work. So one local community, just like the island, will actually work at a very low number of people. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we've got as many of those communities organised across the nation, because we want it to be a national system, yeah? So the critical mass does not necessarily have to be a high number, but we will have a good idea, because what we're going to do is we're going to come back to people who signed up, and we're going to ask you, what resources do you have to offer the system? Do you cut hair? Are you a mechanic? And we'll be able to measure how it's progressing. Now, what we've never said, what we've never done, is we've never talked numbers, because it's not really about numbers. I can promise you that you people out there will have a good idea that we're getting there, because people will start to talk to you about it. And I think that at the end of this year, that we're going to see this thing just take off. Yeah. That gentleman there.
In the long run, yes, this will work, because for us in the hemp industry, we have always known that if the money is going to be backed by anything, it is hemp.
Yeah.
And we've always known, and we've always said, for us in the hemp industry, money does grow on trees.
Well, somebody's already suggested the hemp bank, so, and someone's also suggested that we should make our money out of hemp. So.
And the houses, and the cars.
Yeah.
Should we have one
You
more?
have an advocate there.
Roger, you were saying about, did I get this right, that it's illegal to keep money from another system on deposit?
It's against their law to deposit money.
Okay,
It's
so
their money. So what we do is we buy their money using our money, so it's a contract.
so what happens when a mortgage is paid off then? Is that not the same as
No,
the same thing?
because what we're doing is we're creating money out of nothing.
Yeah,
We give it equal value, because we have the
Yeah.
right to do so. We are the people,
right.
right? And we're saying, you've just been paid off.
And we don't mind that it's
We don't care.
sovereignty pounds.
The point, what will
They're
actually
taking-
happen is this, and this is an interesting thing, is that we will have a bank account, an escrow. By the way, escrow bank account is an account which actually has terms and conditions attached to it. So our terms and conditions are that you must accept the common law jurisdiction of our courts. So the banks will be saying, we have got £1 billion of mortgages paid off in the Lawful Bank, and we'll say, you can have that anytime you want. It's there, you can use it, everyone else is using it.
They ought not to complain, because if they're getting these mortgages paid off, bear in mind that they never lent any money in the first place, because the money in the draft, 200,000 or whatever it was, which was paid to the vendor, was actually raised against the house purchaser and not the bank.
Exactly. And who's got the asset? We have. So the thing is, what you've got to imagine is, it's very important, is that we have created our own authority, just like they did. We have created our own system, just like they did. We are the many, they are the few, right? So our system is democratic. We have done exactly what they have done. So they can't say, you can't do that, because we just say, well, you can't do that. And when they say, well, you know, we've been doing this for 1,000 years, we'll say, so what? You know, we just woke it up. Charlie. So the point is, I'm making about this whole system is that the bank, Lloyd's Bank, will be saying, well, we've got £1 billion sitting in the Lawful Bank account, which we could use, right? So we could just sign it online. You know, if you accept the jurisdiction of our courts, that we are now the new effective governments. Why not? Nothing to lose. By the way, they're shaking off all their debt, all their problems. And let's face it, have they got a problem?
Yeah.
You bet they got a problem.
It's accepted for value.
Eh?
It's accepted for value.
That's what it is. That's what we're doing. That's exactly what
saying,
we're
clear
doing.
your books, lads.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing.
Right.
I mean, if their brains are working properly, what's going to happen is a lot of the people within the banking system are saying, this is actually a solution. All that's going to happen is there's going to be a very, 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 very few people who we know their names begin with R, right? They're going to lose out big time. And I've heard reports these people are worth 500 trillion pounds or dollars or something, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Would you just put the website link down?